Hello, what's up, guys? So we're going to be working on finishing up going over week 1 fractions, comparing fractions. So I've got your workbook pages pulled up, so if you'll have those open so we can go over them together. All right, give me this pen. All right, I got to take these green goggles off, yo. All right, so it says, look at the example problem above. Write each comparison in words, use greater than, less than. So 3/10 and 1/10. When the denominator is the same, we look at the numerator. 3/10 is greater greater than 1/10. All right, the next one, it says 3/10, 3/8. 3/10, 3/8. So when the numerators are the same, we look for the smaller denominator. So that means 3/10. Let's see if I can type this. Let's go down to 24. Is 3/10 is less than 3/8. Shade the models to show 2/8, 2/5, then write greater than, less than, or equal to. Okay, okay. All right, so we're gonna shade in. First one, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is your 8. So I'm gonna color in 2 of the 8. 1 and 2. Wow, Mr. Matters, you counted and you didn't even use your fingers. 2/5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is our 5th. So we're going to color in 2 of the 5. Yeah. I can learn how to color. I'm so smart. And looking at this, I can tell that 2/5 is greater than 2/8. When the numerators are the same, we look for the smaller denominator. Boom, sucker! What? Shade the models to show 5/12 and 7/12. When the denominator is the same, we look for the bigger numerator. So I already know that 7/12 is going to be a bigger fraction, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyways. Oh, let me see if I can color this any quicker. I'm going to go red. All right, so let's copy that bad boy. You're cheating, Mr. Matters. Yeah, so power of technology, boss. Don't be jelly. So there's 5/12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7/12. So we can see 5/12 is greater than 7/12. Where's my pen at? Five twelfths is less than 7/12. Oops, sorry, said it backwards. 5/12 is less than 7/12. Shrink. Explain how you use the models in problem 3 to show how two fractions compare in problem 4. Problem 3, Problem 4. The models show the number of pieces in the set. Numerator. This shows which fraction has more. That's exactly what I put, Mr. Metters. You lie. Label 7/8 on the number line. So we have 0 right here. This would be the same thing as saying 0/8. And so to have a whole, one whole, would be the same thing as 8/8. So once you figured that part out, the number line's a cinch. Halfway between 8 and 8, 8/8 is 4/8. So right in the middle would be 4/8. Okay, so we have 0/8, 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8. 7/8 would go right here. Boom! 7/8. Label 7/12. Same thing. 0/12 would go here. Let me get a different color. 0/12. One whole would equal 12/12. I don't see a 12. Mr. Metters, can you fix that? What's that say? Is that a 1, a 2? Halfway between 0 and 12 is 6. 12 divided by 2 is 6. All right, so we're looking for 7/12. So this is 6/12, so right in the middle, right after 6. Plus 1, 7. 7/12. 7/12 falls right, y'all, on the number line, yo. On the number line, yo. Compare 7/8 and 7/12. When the numerators are the same, we look for the smaller denominator. The smaller denominator is 8. So that means the pieces are bigger. So 7/8 is larger. So 7/8 is greater than, shrink it down, it's greater than 7/12. Explain how you use the number line in problems 6 and 7 to show you how the two fractions compare. Okay, so if we look back at the number line, there's 7/8. It's really close to being a whole. 7/12 is closer to being a half. So if I were going to explain how to use the number lines in problems 6 and 7 to show you how. All right, so 7/8 is very close to 8/8, a whole. And 7/12 is close to 6/12. Boom. Hear that rain? Rain on the metal roof. All right, 7/8 is close to 8/8, a whole, and 7/12 is close to 6/12, a half. Therefore, 7/8 is greater than 7/12. Shade the following models to show 3/4 and 5/6. So here we go again. What? Oops. I didn't want to circle, yo. Let's get this out of here. Try again. Shapes are hard. With the color, we're going to fill it with Batman gray today. All right, so we got... I am really struck. I need a rectangle. Dang it. Noob! As Alex would say. Hope Alex is doing all right. Haven't heard from him on Google Classroom. All right, one more time. There we go. All right, so we're coloring 3 of the 4. One, 2, and 3. So now we need to do another one. This one I'm going to do Batman blue. And that's going to be 5 of the 6. All right, so looking at this, we can see that 3/4 is smaller, less than 5/6. Or 3/4, yes. Yes, I said it right. Divide each model in the problem 1 into 12 equal parts to show the equivalent fraction. So we're trying to get twelfths as our denominator. So you got to ask yourself, what times 4 gets me 12? And whatever you multiply the bottom by, you have to multiply the top. Well, I know that 3 times 4 gives me 12. So if I multiply the bottom times 3, that gives me 12. The top times 3, 3 times 3 is 9. 9/12. So we're going to do the same thing with the other fraction. We have 5/6, and we're trying to get 12 as our denominator. If I multiply the bottom times 2, I have to multiply the top times 2, and that gives me 10. 10/12. They're very close, which my model shows to being the same, but they're not the same. 10/12 is greater than 9/12, which means 5/6 is greater than 3/4. Compare 2/3 and 9/12 by finding a common denominator. Equivalent fraction. So I have 2/3. They already gave me what they want the denominator to be, which is 12. So I have to multiply this times 4. If I multiply the top times 4, or the bottom times 4, I gotta multiply the top times 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 8/12. Compare the fractions. 8/12 is less than 9/12. So that means that 2/3 is also less than 9/12. Boom! Got it! The side gives you some good information. Denominator, the number below the line in the fraction. I always think denominator down on the bottom. It tells you how many equal parts are in the shape. 1, 2, 3, 4. Denominator is 4. Numerator is the number above the line in a fraction. It tells how many equal parts are described, or how many pieces. So there are 4 pieces, but only 3 are shaded. So 3 out of 4 are shaded. Compare 1/5 and 2/12 by finding a common denominator. So we want to find a common denominator of 12, but there's a problem. Or sorry, common numerator. Oop. Learn how to read. Common numerator. Okay, so I have to multiply to get 2 on top. 1 times 2 is 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. 2/10. So I got 2/10 here. When the numerator is the same, I look for the smaller denominator. So the smaller denominator is 10 or 12, it would be tenths. 2 tenths is greater than 2 twelfths. So that means that 1/5 is also greater than 2 twelfths. Okay. Compare the fractions using symbols. Well, right here I see tenths. That means I can multiply the bottom times 2, which gives me 4 tenths as my new fraction. When the denominators are the same, look for the bigger numerator. 8 tenths is bigger. All right, I see twelfths here. I'm going to multiply the bottom times 4, which gives me 12. 4 times 1 is 4, so 4 twelfths. 4 twelfths is less than 5 twelfths. 3/5, 61 hundredths. This one could be tough if you're unsure, but I know that 5 times 20. 5 times 20 equals 100. If I multiply the top number by 20, 3 times 20, I get 60. 60 hundredths, which is equal to 60 hundredths. They try to trick you there. 3/5 is equal to 61 hundredths. Didn't trick me. I'm going to multiply the bottom times 10 and the top times 10. Which gives me 90 hundredths. That looks like a 6. Well, you know what, kid? You draw on this. This is tough. 90 hundredths is bigger than 90, or 9 hundredths. So this is like saying 9 pennies. This is saying 9 dimes. I would rather have 9 dimes. Tell whether the sentence is true or false. 2/3, 5/6. We need to change this to 6. So I'm going to multiply this times 2. 3 times 2 equals 6. If I multiply the bottom times 2, I have to multiply the top times 2, which would give me 4/6. I don't know how to break it to you kids, but 4/6 is not bigger than 5/6. So this is false. False, yo. When the numerator is the same, look for the smaller denominator. 5 is smaller than 10, so this is true. All right, 70 hundredths is equal to 7 tenths. I need to multiply them by 10, so I get the same denominator. If I multiply the bottom times 10, I get 100. Oh, that's bad. If I multiply the top times 10, I get 70. It's tough to write with your finger. 71 hundredths is equal to 71 hundredths. So this is true as well. Okay. Don't get tricked by this one. You have 3/1, which means 3 wholes. This is equal to 3 wholes. 3 complete shapes. This is 1/3, which is 1 piece out of 3. I don't know about you, but I would rather have 3 whole pizzas than just 1 piece out of 3. This is false. All right, so we got 3/4 and 2/3. So this one's the trickiest one. We need to find a common denominator or a common numerator. I'm going to do a common numerator this time. So I got to multiply this times 3 and this times 3, which would give me 6/9. I got to multiply this side times 2 and the denominator times 2, which would give me 6/8. Okay. When the numerators are the same, I look for the smaller denominator. 8 is smaller than 9. So that means that this is false. If you missed that one, I know what you did. Can two fractions with the same numerator and different denominators be equal? Use words to explain. Nope, they cannot. No, because if the numerators are the same, the denominator you look for the smaller denominator because pieces are larger. Okay. All right, let me shrink that down so you can actually see it. All right. So no, because if the numerators are the same, you look for the smaller denominator because the pieces are larger. All right, compare 9/10 and 3/2. All right, so first off, whenever you have an improper fraction, you got to understand improper means that it's a whole and some pieces. So 9/10, it looks big because it's got two big digits, but we're not dealing with whole numbers. 9 pieces out of 10. This is saying there are 2 slices and I have 3, which means I have a whole and 1 extra piece. So here's 5/10, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here's 9/10 right here. See how it's less than a whole? 9/10. All right. This is 3/2. Well, a whole would be 2 out of 2. And I have 1 extra piece. So if I have 2 out of 2, halfway would be 5/10. So this is equal to 3/2. I can prove that by multiplying the bottom and the top by the same number. 2 times 5 would equal 10. 3 times 5 would equal 15. So right here, which fraction is greater than 1? 3/2. Which fraction is less than 1? 9/10. Fill in the blank to explain how you found your answer, which is dun da da da. 3/2 is greater than. All right, so 3/2 is greater than 9/10 because it falls further on the number line. You misspelled number line? Three halves is greater than a whole. All right, shrink it down. Shrink it down now, y'all. Charlie Brown. Crisscross. All right, so 3/2 is greater than 9/10 because it falls further on the number line. 3/2 is greater than a whole. Compare 5/6 and 1/3 using the benchmark fraction of 1/2. So half of 6 would be 3/6. So 3/6 and 1/2 are equivalent. So that means this would be 4/6. Here's 5. 5/6 is really close to being a whole. 1/3. So if we're dealing with 6 here, if I cut this fraction, so this is 1/6. This is 1 or 2/6. If you want to find thirds, we got to think about it like this. Half of 3 would be 1.5. So to find thirds, you just cut each one in half, because 2 times 3 equals 6. Oh, wait, I got that backwards. Hold that. Sorry. Try that again. 1/3. This is a third right there. This is a third right here. So 1/3, 1 out of 3. That would be 2/3. Sorry, I did it backwards. That would be right here, 1/3. As you can see, 5/6 is greater than 1/3. 1/3 is less than 1/2. So that means, which fraction is greater than 1/2? 5/6. Which fraction is less than 1/2? That'd be 1/3. Fill in the blank. 5/6 is greater than 1/3. Explain how you know. 5/6 is greater than 1/3 because 5/6 is closer to a whole, and 1/3 is less than a half. Now, y'all. Use a benchmark fraction to compare 7/10 and 5/12. Okay, 7/10 is greater than 1/2, and 5/12 is less than 1/2. Because half of 10 would be 5, so 5/10 is halfway. Half of 12 would be 6, so 5/12 is less than 6/12. So that means 7/10 is greater than. Shrink it down so y'all can actually see the answer. All right, so hopefully you can see 7/10 is greater than 1/2. 5/12 is greater than 1/2, or is less than 1/2. So that means 7/10 is greater than 5/12. All right. Tell whether each number sentence is true or false. Then write a benchmark to compare. Okay, so we have 11/12 and 9/8. So first off, this is a fraction, 11 pieces out of 12. This is improper. That means I have a whole and some pieces. So that is true. Okay. All right. It says write a benchmark fraction. So a whole would be 8/8. And you have 9/8, which is more than a whole. A whole of 12ths would be 12/12. You don't have 12/12. You only have 11. So that means 8/8 is bigger. So that means 9/8 is bigger. All right, so we have 2/5 and 5/6. All right, so half of 6 would be 3. 3/6. Well, 5 is bigger than 3. So that means that this is true as well. The benchmark is 3/6. half of a fifth would be 2.5. 2.5 fifths, which you don't have. You only have 2 fifths. So that means 3/6 is greater than 2 fifths. I'm going to erase this fraction right here just because I know it's going to confuse some of you. Already confused. I'm just copying your work. 7/10, 2/4. All right, so we have 7/10. Half of a tenth is 5. 5/10. That's halfway. We have more than halfway. Half of 2/4 is 2/4. So I have more tenths than I do 2/4. So this is false. They are lying. That's halfway. This is more than halfway. 4/5, 1 whole. This is a fraction. This is a whole complete set. This is false as well. For this to be true, I should have 5/5. 5/5 would be equal to 2 halves. All right, so here once again, this is improper, which means I have a whole and some parts. So 2 halves would equal 1 whole. 9/10 is less than a whole because 10/10 would be a whole. So this is bigger. If 2 halves is bigger, 3 halves is bigger. False as well. Liars. So true, true, false, false, false. Which of the following is greater than 2/3? Circle all that apply. Okay? Halfway of a third would be 1.5. So this is bigger than a half. So first off, this is greater because it's improper. If I multiply both times 2, I get 6 as the denominator. 6, 4/6. So that means 5/6 is bigger. All right, I want 12ths on bottom. So times 4. 4 times 2 would be 8. This is not greater. It's equal. 3/4. I'm trying to find an equivalent numerator, so let's do 6. So 3 times 2 equals 6. 6 and 3 times 3 is 9, so 6/9. 3 times 2 would be 6, 8. So this would be greater. 3/8 would be greater than, or sorry, 6/8 would be greater than 6/9. So A, B, and D are all correct. Oh man, I missed that one, Mr. Matters. Harry ate 5/8 of a sandwich. Who eats 5/8? You just eat the whole thing, dude. 5/8 is Stev. What kind of weirdo? SESVEN? Your parents did not love you. Of a sandwich. Micah ate 3/4 of a sandwich, and Gabe ate 6/12 of a sandwich. First off, my dad would make me sit there until I finished that sandwich. Who ate the most of his sandwich? All right, halfway between 12, so this is equal to 1/2. Gabe ate half a sandwich. Wuss. Half of 2/5 would be 2.5. So Dev only ate, he ate less than a half. So I know that Gabe ate more than Steph. 3/4 is almost completely full. So that's more than a half. So I know that Micah ate more than Gabe, who ate more than Steph. So these two guys are out. There is no Gabe. There is no Stev. I've only got Harry and Micah to worry about here. I need to change the denominator. and multiply the bottom and the top by the same number, which would be 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Same denominator. Look for the greater numerator. 2 times 3 is 6. Micah ate the most of his sandwich. Way to go, Micah. Yum, nom, 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 nom. Erica and Matt earn the same amount of money each month. Erica got 3/10 of her earnings. Matt saves 3/6 of his earnings. Which explanation correctly tells who saved more? Okay, so Erica did 3/10. Half of 10 is 5. She didn't save more than half. 3/6, that is 1/2. He's saving more. So I'm looking for ones that say Matt saved more money. Erica saves more. Matt saves less. Erica saves more. Matt saves more because 3/6 is greater than 3/10. Ding, ding, ding. Fran chooses C as the correct answer. How did she get her answer? So she chose C. Erica saves more. It looks like she got the right answer, but she didn't do the right fraction. When the numerators are the same, you look for the smaller denominator. So she said Erica saves more, but really her model shows the correct. So she just put the wrong name. So C is correct, except it should say Matt because Matt saved 3/6, not Erica. So Fran, check your work. That's what I would say. Mulaney reads 45 pages of a 100-page book. Her younger sister reads 1/2 of a 10-page book. Who read a greater fraction? So 45 out of 100. 1/2 of 100 would be 50, or 5/10. 10-page book, she read half of it, so that's 5. So to figure out a common fraction, I have to multiply it times 10. Which gives you 100 as my denominator and 50 as my numerator. Who read a greater fraction of a book? It was her sister. Her sister. I bet you didn't see that one coming. Sister read a greater fraction. Five tenths equals 1/2 equals 50 100ths. Way to go, little sis. Compare 5/4 and 9/10. Well, first off, before I even start working, this is improper, which means it's a whole plus some pieces. So it's bigger. 5/4 is bigger than 9/12 because 9/12 or 9/10. 9/10 is 9 pieces out of the 10. I don't have the whole thing. Describe 2 methods you could use to compare. Okay. Benchmark fraction. 4/4 equals 1 whole. 10/10 equals 1 whole. 5/4 is greater than 4/4. 9/10 is less than 10/10. Okay. Another one you could do is, I would say the best one to do this with Describe two methods to compare. I don't know of another way to compare because I wouldn't change the denominators because there's nothing times 4 times 10. And I wouldn't change I guess I could change the numerators. 9 times 5 would be 45 over 9 times 4 would be 36. 45th 36 is greater than 5 times 9 would be 45. 50. When the numerators are the same, I look for the smaller denominator, which is 36. Okay, so that works. Worked it out. Let me shrink this down. All right. So that is the end of the workbook pages for week 1. I'll be posting week 2. If you watched the whole thing, checked your work, if you got everything right, awesome job. Very proud of you. Make sure that you have taken the quiz over week 1 material. I'll be posting more stuff, guys, so just be ready for it. All right. Peace.